Our mission, and we choose to accept it, is 0 injuries and 0 environmental impact. A healthy workforce and environment is key to our nation's continued success. The Mission Zero podcast is a deep dive with the industry's top experts into the health, safety, and environmental aspects of today's workplace. Our mission is to be a platform for new ideas and strategies that, when implemented, will improve our safety, our environment, and how we govern out business. We are making the world safer, and we're going to have fun doing it.
Okay, welcome everyone to the Mission Zero podcast. New episode today. I'm your co-host Jeff Peoples, and I'm here finally back again with my co-host Justin Overstreet.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Good to see you, buddy. Good to see you.
Good to be back.
Today we have a great guest, Hiett. Jared is the Health, Safety, and Environmental Director for Doggett Industries. Doggett is, kind of a new company for us, a new way to go, and we're interested in hearing about, that and your task there. Welcome.
All right, thank you. How are you guys doing?
Great. So we want to dig into it, but first, we like to know a little bit more about the person we're talking to. So if you don't mind, give us a little brief history of yourself, where you're from, what brought you to this point here today.
All right. So I'm actually local here in town in Spring, Texas. Been here since 2000. Got into the world of safety. First off, graduating high school, I knew I wanted to become a firefighter and EMT. That was just the route that I wanted to explore. No one in my family had been in that field, and graduated from the Cleveland Fire Academy in Cleveland, Texas in 2005. Attended Lone Star Community College here in town and got my EMT basic. I began working on an ambulance for about 6 months and responded to a pretty horrific car crash with some fatalities. And this is right when PTSD started coming out, right around the time the war over in Afghanistan, where they were starting to notice these incidents of being able to, you just revisit the accident over and over and over. And I knew, every waking minute, every time I had some time to myself, I'd replay that accident over and over. I'd lose sleep, and I knew I couldn't have a family and kids and see the kind of things that we would see I just wasn't built for that. And so I had some friends in the oil field who said you should explore safety. Safety is a great gig and it pays well offshore.
And you never see horrific things.
you typically don't, right? But and so I started chasing a new career. It seemed lucrative at the time. And got into the world of safety. Landed my first gig as a site safety coordinator for an oil field service company. And really dove into, what is safety? Why is it important? What drives safety? Did that for about 10 years or so and got promoted into a regional safety manager where I was in charge of developing these tasks, developing these programs, reducing injury rates, and working for some offshore clients and meeting their skills knowledge. As you know, the clients have pretty high standards if you're going to conduct work for them or be a subcontractor. And then I kind of positioned away from the oil field. As you guys know, it's a roller coaster.
Yeah.
A true safety culture, typically a safety coordinator or director doesn't worry about their job or layoffs, but in the real world, that's not the case sometimes. And I just got tired of that ride. And so I wanted to get off into a different industry, and that's where I landed at Doggett Industries, which is the biggest John Deere construction dealer in the Gulf Coast area. We stretch from New Orleans north to Arkansas, and then all the way down to the Laredo area.
Okay. And you're also a football coach.
Yes. Yeah, that's my real passion. And if you've seen on LinkedIn, that's my profile. Super Bowl champs. And in Texas, football is serious, whether you're coaching Pee-wee, middle school, or high school. I have two boys and a little girl. My oldest, I coached him for 6 years in the AAYFDT out of Tomball, Texas. And my youngest is 9, and he just got started. We're on our second year of tackle football with him. So,
nice. What age do they start tackle football now?
It's second grade, so 8 years old. Yeah.
I thought they pushed that back a little bit recently.
Well, our league is it stands apart from like Pop Warner and others. Is we're the only USA heads up football certified league, which all of our coaches have to go in through intense training on how to properly tackle to to keep the head out of the game. So from my experience, a lot of moms and dads are afraid to get their kids in tackle football early, but it's really the safest thing you can do. Teach them at a young age, because you get the kids that get into middle school who've never played before, and they don't have that form or technique to tackle safely.
Yeah. So even in coaching football, you can't get away from safety.
Yeah, it is. It's safety 24/7.
Okay, so you made it through. Obviously the choice has been to help people your whole career. It's been about rescuing. It's been about safety. With the firefighting. Do you still do any firefighting? Or you volunteer anything?
I don't. I still keep up with it. I still do the continue education.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, I love to, but with 3 kids and 3 dogs, I don't have any spare time.
Do you also have your EMT license?
I don't. I let that go. That continue education. I think it's up to 100 hours a year now, or maybe even more.
That's a bit of a commitment.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's still, on a personal level, the skills are still there, right?
Yes, absolutely. Certified to teach CPR, first aid. So we keep those certifications going.
Even at home, that's a great skill to have.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, all right. And in oil field service, how long were you in the oil field?
So I was in the oil field for 11 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
where was this in Texas? Or?
Yeah, it was here locally in Houston. We're based out of Houston, Texas. It was an oil field company.
Mm-hmm.
DXP is the name, Distribution Experts.
Okay.
They gave me my start. Loved working for them. I really got to see what a culture is as far as safety. You guys have been in the oil field. You understand the have to safety culture because a client told me to versus a want to. And I've been pretty lucky to work for organizations that want to have a safety culture, that are there to care for their employees.
Boy, Justin didn't smile outwardly, but he was smiling inwardly when you said what you just said.
Yeah, no, and that is a good point. They're in the service company world, as you know, if you're a reputable company that's doing it because you believe in it, you believe it's the right thing to do for your people and for the people that they interact with, you're competing not only with the expectations of that customer, but those other service companies out there that may not be as forthright in the way that they're presenting their information or program. So it can be a bit of a challenge, and there are a lot of competing interests, and figuring that out sometimes is really it's really where you separate the men from the boys, so to speak. So when you were in the service and the oil and gas service industry, what were some things that you saw that didn't work quite so well with other service companies or even with DXP?
So in the service world, we get back to the culture of the have to. We've all been part of safety meetings. I've gone to subcontractor safety meetings where they start the meeting of, hey, we have a JSA because we have to do this. The minute you lead into that, you've lost the room. Your culture it's non-existent, right? And so when we developed the culture, it was a true top-down approach. Our VPs, our presidents of the organization would be part of our meetings. They whether they jump on a webcast to start the meeting or what have you. That's where it's at. That's what you said separates the men's from the boys. You always have those contractors that say, we have 10,000 employees and a 0.1 TIR or incident rate, and you're like, man, that's amazing. How do you manage your cases, and how do you prevent them? And it's a lot of policy and procedure, safety culture, which in my experience hasn't worked.
You have to have those, right?
Yeah.
You've got to have that stuff in place, but really that stuff is just to guide the way that you're going to instruct your people in the culture, and those things aren't worth the paper they're written on if the culture doesn't exist.
Right.
So you jumped out of service industry, and so tell us a bit about what Doggett does.
So Doggett Industries is, as I said before, they're a John Deere construction dealer. So we rent and sell all of John Deere yellow construction equipment and the green forestry equipment in Louisiana. We're heavily on the repair and service side and parts. So anything from warranty to, hey, my tractor's broke down, we need somebody to come look at it, we'll service that equipment. It's a totally different ballgame from the oil field because we don't really have those clients that dictate, hey, you have to have a safety program. And so when I was recruited, our president VP, Mike Ortiz, reached out to me and saw the incidents that we were able to eliminate at DXP and to get our numbers where they're at. And they realized, hey, we need something like this here. The insurance rates, the EMR rates were kind of growing. Their incident rates were at a 5.6 for a small organization. That's pretty big. And so they saw the need for that. And
You're saying what was the EMR at that time?
EMR was right around a 1.
So you were at 1.
At 1 on the EMR.
Okay.
Yeah. And we've actually brought it down to a 0.84 on the EMR.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Do you know what the lowest EMR for your industry sector is?
I believe it's close to a 1.2 in our sector.
So that's the average.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. And our BLS average for incident rates is a 3.2, and right now our 3-year average is a 0.87.
And when you came in, you said it was north of 5.
Yeah, it was north of 5.
That's awesome. So what did you do to drive that? Now, obviously, them bringing you in speaks to the culture of the company already.
Right.
So that culture existed. How did you supplement that?
So the culture existed from the HR standpoint, right? HR typically wore the dual hat of safety. So a lot of the policies were just that. They're policies because we have to have them. OSHA says we've got to have these PPE policies in place. We're having incidents, but we don't know why we're having incidents. And so when I came in, I met with who my direct boss is our VP of Product Support, Dwayne Valentine. He's been in the industry close to 40 years, so he knows the ins and outs of the construction world. And I partnered with him, and we saw a lot of mottos because he was hired in around the same time I was. The safety first. The safety starts with you, which I hate. I hate catchphrases in general because they're hollow. They're just like a policy or, hey, we're doing this because we have to. Yeah. The safety first, it never jived with me. So we created what's called Safety Me.
I might end up crying during this podcast based on the things that you're saying because it's exactly the way I think about it anyway. Go ahead.
So the Safety Me is something that we sat down and we talked about and what does that mean? What does safety mean? You'll see it in our catchphrases on our Target Zero meetings. You'll see it on every meeting we have on a Monday. We start with Safety Me. Safety Me is something we all have to buy into. It's no more assuming that safety starts with you, right? Jeff, you're going to be safe, so I assume you're going to be safe. You assume I'm going to be safe. There's a lot of assumptions there. We don't need to spell that out, but we all know what assumes mean. So we changed that and looked at, okay, what does safety mean? If I begin every day worrying about myself and my safety, naturally the behaviors of myself are going to affect you. Right? If I'm safe and I'm worried about myself, ultimately, if you buy into that culture of Safety Me, it's going to make everyone around us safer. So it drives the ownership of that culture. From our CEOs starting the meetings with Safety Me, why is safety important to me? I've got a family at home. I've got 3 kids to take care of and a wife, right? I need to get home every day. So that's one reason that I want to be safe. But really, the Safety Me aspect, it goes a long way as far as the culture goes, because if you truly buy into that, it's going to affect everyone down the line. It's going to affect your behavior. So we get away from the safety you and the safety first, because if you start with Safety Me, then all that stuff's going to come.
Did this exist when you got there?
It did not.
Okay, so you brought in the Safety Me.
Dwayne Valentine and myself came up with this, and I'll shoot you guys kind of the motto behind that. Yeah, you might think it's a Rogan experience when we get into the Sigma and the quantum physics of what Sigma represents.
So are you certified in Six Sigma and the lean management stuff? That stuff is actually some of it is it really works well in a manufacturing setting, but the principles are pretty much applicable, so it's pretty good. I love how you solved the use of safety slogans by creating a safety slogan.
Absolutely. Yeah. It drives accountable for me. It's my safety slogan.
Yeah, it's yours, right? It's Safety Me. No. But no, you're right, though. And as long as people can come up with the reason why they personally need to be safe at work, and I had this conversation with guys I've worked with forever, if we can be safe one day, we can be safe all days. And so it's just about you making sure that you're not going to hurt yourself that day. So
correct.
I think that's great, man. And I'm just giving you a hard time.
Yeah,
it's awesome. I'm a big believer in naming programs and those types of things.
And you mentioned something just a few seconds ago called Target Zero, which is really how I got in touch with you in the first place. I saw that and I was like, okay, he got a program called Target Zero. He's got to be on the Mission Zero podcast.
Absolutely.
It's only natural from that point. So, Target Zero, can you tell us about that program? You know, someone won it, so you had a big award. Just tell us all about the program, how you came up with it, and what it is.
So our Target Zero, just like within a safety culture, you want to reward the efforts, right? We get away from the monetary, the bonuses, the hey, why won't you report an accident? And we simplify it to a recognition of a location. So, like I said, we have 16 locations within the dealer group. And to be eligible for this award, you have to have 0 recordable injuries for the year, 0 property damage claims, and 0 significant near misses. Now, we encourage near miss reporting. That's how we learn. And to be eligible for that, everyone at that location has to meet those goals. So, you know, we'll take an example here in Houston where we have 150 employees. If one of those 150 end up with an incident, we exclude those from the statistics. So we get true safety statistics.
Yeah, so that disqualifies
Houston.
Point.
Correct. So we look at some of our smaller dealers. You know, we have a Lufkin with 35 employees. We have multiple locations in Beaumont, Broussard, some smaller towns, some smaller employees. But as you know, they all report up to one organization. One incident at a Beaumont or a Corpus can ruin their site safety record. And so to be eligible for that, you've got to hit those 3 targets, and then we come around annually. We give awards based on the years. The first year and every year after that, we give T-shirts with the statistics. And the second year, we give out Safety Me Target Zero jackets. We go into knives and things down the line. You know, safety guy giving out a weapon, but the
I
guys
always thought that was awesome.
The guys like that. You know, the guys love that. So
you know, the best part about giving out safety awards like that is you always have extras.
yeah.
So
we recognize the stores. You know, we have a social media, Facebook, LinkedIn. I think there's an Instagram now where we recognize these employees, and it's good to see. You know, we had one posted from Broussard last week where a mother commented, "Hey, my son works at that store. This is amazing that you were caring for him."
It's
And
empowering
that hits home.
for employees to see themselves like that. When the company does that, it empowers them. It actually drives it forward a little bit more. You just double their efforts.
Right,
You know?
and that engagement. That's one of the biggest things I strive for as a safety rep, right, for the company. Is we're stretched 16 locations. I make it a point when I go to the stores, I engage with those frontline employees. I get to know them, get to know their hobbies. Why is safety important to them? Do they have kids? Are they interested in football?
You actually give a damn about them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that goes a long way. We talked about the have to. You have the culture where the guys in the office saying, you have to wear your gloves, right? Because my client says we have to wear them on site, versus a culture where, you know, the VPs, the safety directors, the managers are out there saying, hey, this is why we're going to wear the gloves. And by the way, how's the family? How's the kids?
Sure.
How's fishing last weekend? That would suck if you lost your hand and couldn't cast. The next time out, and you get more of a response from the employees if you, like you said, if you give a damn, if you care,
develop a genuine relationship with them
Right.
that's not forced. And I think it's interesting you mentioned that person's mom reaching out, and that's actually a question I'll ask supervisors a lot of times. And you say, hey, do you have 2 sons, right? Would you feel comfortable with your son working here, and not here where you are, here at another location with our company? Would you feel safe? And if they even hesitate a little bit, why is that? Why are you hesitating? I mean, it either is or is not good. So that's a great point to bring up.
And so I'd say I'm very thankful for getting into the different world, because you've worked with subcontractors in the oil field, and you're exactly right. They will show you a piece of paper that they're all-stars. You get out on a site without FR, without PPE, without safety glasses, and they're a representative of your company. And to be on the other side of it, where it's a want to, from Leslie Doggett buying into this, and then our VPs bringing me on, they believe in safety. It's a great place to work. When you walk in, our banners that you've seen, the Target Zero banners, are hanging in these stores. We talk about them every Monday. We don't do the tailgates anymore, the daily tailgates. We make them once a week, and we make them impactful. 20, 30 minutes. We start our week with a safety meet talk.
Is Doggett a privately owned company?
It is, yes.
Yeah, so that's even more impressive from a culture standpoint, because they're not having investors driving that down on them. So where do you think that comes from? That type of culture in that company. Where does that come from?
I think it comes from our owner. He started out he started out in the oil field, as well as getting his start with Toyota Lift forklifts. That's where he got his start, where he was a technician and a manager, and kind of built that. And when you have someone that has that kind of roots, They understand the service world. They understand the impacts of injuries, and they generally care about their employees. You know, that, like you said, they don't have investors they have to answer to. It's about making their company as successful and profitable as they can. And as you know, the more people stay healthy and in the workforce, the more profitable we're going to be.
Yeah, and those guys see that that workers' comp insurance premium, and they understand that completely, especially from a privately owned standpoint.
It is so hard sometimes to get companies to realize how expensive injuries are over proper safety.
Yeah, and right now we talked about the employee shortage. The technician shortage. You can't just go replace a 20-year tech that loses a hand nowadays.
One of my favorite things in the oil field was talking to a company that had 300 people, and they hadn't had a recordable injury in a year or something. I'm like, come on.
So I would ask that company, then how many first aids have you had, and how many near misses? And I would almost guarantee their answer would be, well, not very many.
Yeah,
which means they're not capturing anything.
They're not capturing anything. Yeah. They have certain doctors they send them to.
The occupational clinics, right? Yeah, no, we've gotten away from that. And you talked about first aid and near miss. That is one of the biggest impacts of our program is our cross sharing. We want to bring it's not to call out an issue, but you know, hey, we have a truck issue. We want to communicate that to all locations. We had a crane failure due to a faulty wiring that burnt up. We're going to take that near miss. We're going to put it into a cross share and communicate it to all locations so it doesn't happen at another store. And that we take all our near misses, first aids, and there's a lot of first aids. You're right. If you have 5 recordables and you say, well, I've only had 1 first aid, you're lying to me in the face.
You're missing a whole bunch.
Yeah.
Either they're not getting told to you or you're ignoring them.
Yeah. And so that's the biggest impact on a safety performance is your first aid. How many are minor? How many are large? And we talked about the impact gloves and our glove policy. That was our number one insurance claim was hand injuries. Everything in the construction world is heavy. It's bulky. It can smash you. It can kill you.
Yeah, there are pinch points everywhere.
And so implementing that 100% impact glove policy, we have not had a hand injury in over 2 years, reportable hand injury.
That's fantastic.
So, and that cost savings is nothing compared to what those gloves cost.
Exactly.
And people, you just can't convince them.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you show them, how much evidence, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Real quick question. With what Doggett does, what are your top 3 safety concerns? Like what scares you the most?
Crush under machines, just like think of an auto repair site where you have a auto lift. Mm-hmm. They don't make lifts big enough to lift up ADT dozers or excavators. So we have a lot of cribbing. We have a lot of jack stands that have to support these machines. That is the top where that's what keeps me up at night is worrying about something cribbed incorrectly and falling on another technician or a piece of equipment swinging in to another equipment, knocking it off those stands. That would be the top. The second is the overhead lifting. The crane, being able to lift these giant parts into machines with taglines and other personnel in the area. And then the third, I hate to say it, is the hands, because reviewing the incidents we had in the past, that worrying about that guy going home with all fingers is
Why did you implement that as soon as you got there? Did you see safety record?
Yeah, when I went, and that was the first thing I did when I jumped in is, why am I here? Why are they bringing me in as a safety guy? Let me see our incidents. What is driving this? And that was our number one claim was hand injuries.
You know, I know a guy that makes pretty good gloves.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
We'll have to talk after this.
I'll get you his information.
Yeah.
Well,
and from the hand injury perspective too, I mean, even if they're, let's say there are 100 hand injuries and 99 of them are minor, just the sheer volume of exposure to injury to the hand is enough to keep you up, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you talked about the cost. One hand injury, you're talking closer to $10,000 to $20,000 in workman's comp.
So a major oil company, now, again, it's been a little different per the industry, but a major oil company had an internal study, and I think I've mentioned this before in another podcast, but they did one, and they included everything. Like, they included, okay, what is the insurance? What is this? What does this cost? What does this cost? And downtime costs, like how much productivity are they losing from this guy or lady not being on the line or not working or not doing their job? And this was probably a decade ago, and it's around $215,000. I mean, that's a lot of money, man.
So you can outfit a couple organizations with gloves with that amount. Yeah.
One or two. But a point you made in another episode, maybe even with me, was that a lot of times this information is lost. Like someone in the organization has it. Usually it's going to be someone in legal or an executive somewhere that is responsible, maybe an administrative executive that's responsible for insurance renewal. But I've seen, like Wildcat's privately owned, that information is readily available, and we make it available to all of the people that are interested in seeing it. And I'm curious, with Doggett being privately owned, that information is much more available, I would think. But do you guys communicate out the actual dollars and cents associated with an injury?
So we do within our organization, because that each of our stores is a profit center, just like any of your locations. So these numbers are shared with all the management team, all the way down to the employees if they request them, to see the impacts. And I use it as justification for getting gloves.
Yeah.
We outfit our entire organization for less than it costs of one hand injury with a missing finger.
And that's what you got to do, that ROI.
Well, so what I think what you're referring to is what I've said before is the me in my my work, right? Going out there and saying, okay, this is how much this is costing you. But that person that you have sitting at the profit center in Beaumont, they don't see or incur the insurance cost.
Yeah.
They're worried about their own profit center, and they're worried about other things. Like there is a major oil company, I mean a major one, who bonuses their, and it might be more than one, but I know of one in particular, that bonuses their purchasers on lowering the cost of a product. They don't care how crappy the safety, the PPE is.
Oh, wow.
It's just, they just get a lower cost. They'll get a bonus based on it. Again, they're not connected. The insurance, the injury, workers' comp, all that stuff, it's not connected to any one person at an organization. Wow. So they don't connect the dots.
Yeah.
And they don't see it until somebody at the top, it looks like you did it, or you and, what's the gentleman's name? Valentine?
Yeah, Dwayne Valentine.
Mr. Valentine. It looks like y'all saw it probably, right? And so you've got a pretty big organization. How big is Doggett?
So Doggett Industries is close to 1,500 employees now. We've started expanding in the Freightliner, the semi-truck world. Florida Lift. We own Doggett Ford on the north side now. He's gotten into the car dealers. But in our organization on the Deere side, we're close to 530 employees total now with 16 locations. Okay. So, and you were mentioning the gloves and the profit center. So we don't tie anything as far as bonuses to save your cost, lower your cost.
It's a terrible idea.
But we have implemented with Dwayne Valentine's help, is we will hit those profit centers for the workman's claim cost up to a certain dollar amount. So it might be $10,000 per incident. So if a Beaumont store hits an injury that's significant, they will hit $10,000 on their P&L. So that's one way that we can drive that cost to the managers who are managing that profit center to see the impacts versus, it just goes up into the cloud and it gets paid.
It's just some number floating around up there. And that's exactly what we do at Wildcat as well. We'll look at it and we'll say, okay, if our comp insurance increases by X percent, let's say 10%, and your center attributed to 3% of that increase, then 3% of whatever that increased premium is gets tagged against you.
Yeah.
And so it's just a way to, again, make that number a real number.
Drive the accountability
to people and help them understand that. And then something else that we've implemented, or we do quarterly meetings where we discuss here's everything you did the last quarter and here's areas for you to work on. So that's great. So as far as the Target Zero goes, you guys see, and I like the way that you guys have like an escalating set of like you do 1 year you get this, 2 years you get a little bit cooler thing, so on and so forth. How has that worked with the employees? They just tend to hold each other accountable?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a tech that's been with us for as long as we've been in existence out of our Kenner, Louisiana store. His name's Andy, and his biggest thing is he's wanted a Doggett jacket. He's wanted this Doggett Safety Me jacket. And I remember we had an incident there on like December 27th. That ruined their 2-year mark, and this guy was on the phone with me like, I can't believe this happened. This guy, we've held him accountable, and they hold each other accountable. Some people might say it's bullying now, I don't know, but they hold them accountable. They'll say, hey, we're putting your picture up next to the safety award because you didn't wear your PPE, you didn't buy into that, and you cost everyone here that chance at that jacket. And he actually just got his jacket this year in February for 2 years
Well,
incident
good
free.
for him, man.
What
Yeah.
the hell kind of jacket
Shout out
is
to
this?
Andy. with the
It's
jacket.
just like those nice North Face with a big Target Zero patch and our Safety Me slogan on the sleeve. So
Well, of course it's on the sleeve.
Yeah.
It has to be.
yeah,
I got to figure
Yeah.
out how to get one of those.
yeah. I'll send you something. I told you marketing. What they were really excited
Well,
about
you,
this.
You got
They
to
wanted
work safe for 2 years.
They
man.
wanted to deck me out and bring me. I said, "Man, we're in Houston. The vest is hot enough right now. You know,
man.
it's 30 degrees on Saturday and it's almost 80 today. So I wasn't going to bring the jacket or wear the jacket."
Do you it sounds like you got a lot of vehicles on the road.
Yes.
How big of a concern is that? Because that's I talked to the like Justin, people in the oil and gas business, and that is, man, that's
number one exposure.
Number
The,
one
the
exposure.
exposure is huge. It's out there. We have 92 big heavy field service trucks on the road, and we outfitted them 3 years ago with cameras. I don't know if you have the cam. We have the forward facing
So
and
these
in-cab.
would be like F-250, 350s
Three-
with
three-
service beds.
Yeah, 350s all the way up into Kenworth styles.
Yeah, big trucks,
large
yeah.
trucks. So we implemented the camera policy, the forward-facing and in-cab, and it has actually kept us out of lawsuits where we've been sued the day after we've gotten into an accident, where we share the video and their lawyers, never mind, case dropped. So it's a huge exposure. But if you train your guys and you make them aware of it, that's their office space, that everything they do, everyone's out to hit you.
Yeah.
Nowadays, they want to pull out in front of you.
Yeah.
As long
Does
as
that
you're
really
in front of them.
Is that a real thing?
All the time. We
Wow, you're kidding
why
me.
get some
wouldn't it
video.
be?
Put some videos in your vehicle and see, even without company markings, it happens daily. Well, they'll pull out and just slam the brakes right in front of a vehicle.
Okay, I'm a little bit. I'm taken aback
Well,
by
I mean,
that. I didn't
so,
know that was a real
so
thing.
if they'll do that to a private citizen,
Yeah,
Yeah.
put a logo on the side of that thing when they know you have insurance.
yeah.
Well, in the oil field, I think it's and you can verify this obviously, but I feel like it's mostly fatigue is the word.
Yeah.
They get tired and they've been working
Fatigue,
a long day, and
fatigue, and complacency for me. I mean, the guys drive all the time,
Yeah.
right? And all of us have been driving for a long time.
Yeah.
And complacencies are one that creeps in, and then even more than fatigue, just distraction. So phones, GPS. I had one manager one time tell me, "Yeah, you know what I do is just middle of the day, I'll shoot a text to my guys to be safe." And I was like, "What if they're driving?" And he's like, "I won't ever do that again." So I mean, it's just good intention, and I love that he's thinking about it, but that just the added distraction. So for me, even more than fatigue, distraction, and you may see it different, but that's the big thing for me on driving.
Distractions there, and that's one great thing about these cameras. They're AI now, so we get a ping, or the manager gets a ping that so and so is distracted, whether they're on their phone or looking down at their laptop. These cameras notify us ahead of time, and as long as we coach on that and
so
address
you
it,
are a big brother.
yeah, well, to a point, yeah. I mean, we all are now.
Yeah, for sure. We should all be comfortable. I told my mom this actually driving up here. She was like, "I think they're recording us," and I was like, "I'd live my life like I'm being recorded at all times." But do the cameras that are rear facing, do they pick up micro sleep?
I don't know if they do or not.
That's
I don't
a
think
cool
we have that. Is
concept,
pretty
man.
interesting.
So they have these cameras that'll face backwards towards the driver, and if the guy kind of starts flickering, it'll pick up micro sleep and it'll play a noise to wake him up.
Oh wow, that's pretty interesting.
I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'm being serious. That's
Well,
kind of.
I'd tell you how you feel about it if you were driving
Yeah,
one
man,
of our 30,000-pound service trucks down
do
the
you
road.
do your best sleeping while you're driving,
I
or
do,
what?
man. I get a good shut eye, close
Hopefully
one
you got
eye.
a Tesla.
And believe me, my next vehicle, I hope that gets itself worked out because I definitely don't want to drive. It's got to be that. I'll get the cheapest one, and
As long as it has autopilot,
as
you're
long as
in.
it could be a go-kart. If it has autopilot, I'm
Take
in.
me to destination.
Yeah, I
huh?
do. People love driving. I've never been one. Like a lot of guys like, oh, I drive fast, but I do not. I've never had.
I'd like to have the option, so I don't mind autopilot necessarily. There's a lot of trust involved in that.
Well, I want the new truck, but they keep delaying the damn thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
because it's the ugliest thing on the road.
Well, now we know why we drive down here to the city center.
yeah.
Instead of meeting
Yeah.
halfway.
Both of us live North Houston, and you're like, yeah, see you in city
This is a
center.
happening place in town, and you know it.
This place is cool, man.
It is. Honestly, I can say I've never been down here, and so this is a great atmosphere.
Yeah, we love them for letting us come in the room. So
Yeah, they're great.
But Jared, I know you got to get back to work, buddy, and thank you so much for coming. We appreciate your sharing of your safety philosophy. I know Justin was kind of you really were saying some things.
My heart was going pitter patter.
Yeah, it was like, I've heard him, talk a lot about his philosophy, and your philosophy is kind of in the same area, and I appreciate it. How can people learn more about your company if they want to?
Yeah, so you can follow us online, Doggett Industries or Doggett John Deere, as well as our website, doggett.com. If you need a new vehicle in town or construction equipment, come see us. We can get you forklifts, construction equipment, new trucks, or big Freightliners. So,
all right. Well, thank you very much, and thanks again. Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the show and accept the mission. Please subscribe to the Mission Zero podcast on your preferred streaming service and be sure to give us a 5-star review.